1. So this all happened years ago when I was still in college. I worked for a delivery joint. The company seemed super cool because they provided vehicles instead of forcing you to beat down your own car. Huge perk, right? Well, in this case, no. The owner of the company used this as a justification to take a percentage of the driver's tips. Often this would result in an employee making below minimum wage. If you made below minimum wage, you would have to come and pick up your check in person and sign a document attesting that you did make minimum wage due to undocumented cash tips, or some such nonsense. Now, this was a problem for 2 reasons. Number 1, in the state I was in, employee tips belonged to the employee, unless part of an employee tip-pulling agreement. This was plain as day on the Department of Labor website, so that 20% gouge was already crossing a line. Number 2, you can't just hand-wave or force employees to say they made above minimum wage. So pretty shady shit, right? Now, most people would see this situation and run for the hills, which probably explained the delivery driver turnover being so high. I, on the other hand, saw the potential. See, I am pretty well versed in labor law, and decided that I was going to ride it out. I wanted to see how long they would keep this shit up. Here and there, I would make comments to the managers about the legality of their practices, and was often told, "Our lawyer said it was okay, so it's okay." Would love to meet these lawyers one day. So I patiently waited for a year, documenting every red cent they took from me, and encouraging the other drivers to do so. Every new driver that came through that door got a little powwow with me, and I would give them the skinny. Unfortunately, my plan must have leaked because sooner than later, the joint decided to fire me after making up 3 bogus infractions. If you're interested in those, I'll explain in an edit. This wasn't a problem, though, as my plan was already in action. See, in this state, unpaid wages collect interest. So what was $20 to $40 a night, 5 days a week over 1 year, quickly became a decent sum. So I began collecting the names of current and previous employees whom had been screwed over by the company, and collected their documented data, then sent it off to the Department of Labor. At the end of the day, it took a couple months, but the company was eventually required to pay a decent chunk of change to all parties, and a pretty hefty fine on top. Overall, I believe it came out to a little under $100,000. I wasn't done, though. See, those shady little documents they had us sign, claiming we made over minimum wage, affected how the company was reporting its payroll tax. The IRS eventually came in and hit them for a ton of back taxes. And I received a small portion of the settlement the IRS used to pay people who tipped them off. Don't know if they still do. Finally, I was increasingly aware of the company's under-the-table agreement with their health inspector, which I decided to go ahead and tip off the health department. This resulted in even more fines and a temporary closure for the joint. Altogether, it ended up costing this dumb little delivery joint a ton of money just to stay open, all because they wanted 20% of the driver's tips. The moral here is, know your labor laws. It's degenerates like these who profit off the ignorance or fear of a workforce. The more you know about your rights, the less idiots like these will be able to survive in the wild. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, to address a few things. The infractions that led to my termination and their bullshit nature were like this. So the way this joint worked was you as a driver got an insulated box that was supposed to contain the order. You weren't supposed to check the box or confirm the order was accurate. That was another guy's job. So my first infraction said order checker swapped the address on 2 orders I was taking. The second I called in that the second one was delivered, they told me I delivered the boxes to the wrong places. Strike 1. Second time they dicked me over, they literally just put empty boxes in my delivery boxes with a phone book, and accused me of taking the food. After this, I got permission to start checking the orders, and they couldn't get me for a while. Now, we drove cars with the company name, phone number, and a vehicle number for the car. For my final one, they claimed someone called in and said I had flipped off another driver. I would have to have the world's worst concussion to actually think I could get away with that. No matter what I said, though, they took the Collins word as law. They used that to fire me as my 3rd infraction. I had some choice words for the manager. He looked ready to pop. It was amazing. If you're in a situation that does not seem right, document everything. Keep a little black notebook and write down everything. The most important thing you can do to protect yourself from nonsense in the workplace is document, document, document. If you are ever in question of something, be it disability rights at work or earnings, you can always contact your state EEOC branch or DOL branch. They will gladly help you figure out what is and isn't proper. Don't be a person who gets taken advantage of by bad employers. Only by fighting back will they ever learn their lesson. 2. So this happened a couple of years back in a pub I was working at. I worked the bar at this pub, which was pretty popular, especially on sunny days as we had a lot of outdoor seating and a pretty huge beer garden. Now the story takes place one exceptionally hot summer Sunday. For those of you who have the joy of not being all that familiar with our tea and crumpet society, I'll enlighten you as to why this is a pain for working in a pub. Firstly, the moment the sun blesses our sodden grey land with its presence, we British come out of our thatched caves to bask in its glow like the lizard people our royal family is. This subsequently also means everyone has the exact same thought of, "Let's go have a pint in the pub and sit in the sun." Yeah, for bartending. The other noteworthy point here is that on a Sunday, a roast is had. Beef, lamb, chicken, or pork, with roast potatoes, veggies, gravy, and Yorkshire puddings. All of which is wonderful unless you have to spend 2 hours cooking it. With that out of the way, this particular Sunday, we were full, and I mean full. Bar 4 or 5 people deep, the 100+ tables all double booked for turnover, and I found myself without a moment's respite between pouring drinks and telling people we were fully booked. During this manic rush, I spot a bit of commotion outside, and see a group of roughly 30 to 35 people, including seeming kids, walking through the courtyard, ignoring everyone, and into the beer garden. Once my colleague and I had thinned down the numbers at the bar substantially, I told him I was going to walk past to see what the huge group was doing. Anyone that's worked with real-life people, of course, know that people suck, hence why I just wanted to walk past and avoid interaction. Also, it's a pet peeve of mine when people just sit themselves down ignoring all the staff, and expecting us to accommodate them without even the courtesy of mentioning to someone that they're here. So I take a step past the threshold of the bar, always dangerous, and that day a choice I regretted, and walk through the beer garden collecting empty glasses as I go. As I near the area the group has settled in, as far away from the building as possible I might add, I avoid eye contact at all costs. You're not going to come say hi, then I can't see you. Walking past the group, I am spotted by a very angry woman, the Alpha Karen, if you will, snapping her fingers at me to try and get my attention as I try to get away. She stormed up to me and stared me dead in the face. "Excuse me, we've been waiting here for the last 15 minutes and no one has come to give us menus. What the hell are you all doing?" I'll admit I was momentarily in shock, as the group had to walk through the courtyard and must have seen the crowds of people and stressed waiters everywhere. "I'm sorry, madam, but I had no idea you were here. Did you speak with anyone to let us know?" Then what I saw was a rage build just below her plasticized skin. "Yes, I spoke with the redhead." No one that worked there was a redhead. "Well, anyway, I want some menus. We're starving." I looked past her and asked how many there were. "We're 36 people. It's not a problem, is it?" she said, without so much as a hint of understanding why this was ridiculous. "Well, yes, actually, that's quite a lot for a walk-in, and as you probably saw on your way in, we're extremely busy. I'm afraid we have no tables available, and we don't serve food in the beer garden. You'll have to try your luck at getting a table in the courtyard, but I can't imagine you'll be able to find enough seating for the 36 of you, and I simply can't hold tables for you turning other guests away. The reality is that I could, but simply didn't want to." She stared at me for a moment, then said, "You don't serve food in the beer garden, or you won't serve me food in the beer garden." "No, madam, the establishment does not serve food in the beer garden." Fine. Look, can we just have chips then, for the kids? They're starving." I thought about it for a moment, deciding if I was really willing to put up with this, or if I should just say no and send them on their way. Against my better judgment, I said okay, but they would have to sit in the courtyard once the tables were available, and asked roughly how many portions of chips they would be wanting. She replied 6, and I said that's probably fine, but she'll have to go inside to order. This did not sit well with her, and she started to get very cross. On my way back, I swung by the kitchen to let them know what's up, and to expect 6 chip orders, and to not rush them because the woman was in enormous pain. I get back to the bar and it's busy again, 3 to 4 people deep, so I immediately jump in and start pouring pints. A few minutes later I hear, "Oh, for God's sake, this is ridiculous!" and immediately know who it is. This tiny, angry woman pushes her way through the crowd and snaps her fingers at me to get my attention. "You, I want to order my chips, and hurry it up, the kids are hungry." Okay, I'll put them on now. 6 portions, correct? "No, 17. Suffice to say, I was bewildered. "Madam, that's not what we discussed. I'll have to see if the kitchen can do that. We're very busy." "Well, go on then. Run along to the kitchen," she barked. As I was about to, I hear, "Actually, can you make it 35? "Madam, I'll be honest with you, there's no way you'll get them all at once. It's simply too many for the fryer. It'll have to be in batches, and it's going to take a while, as there are more pressing orders ahead of you. You will also need to pay up front." "I don't care. Bring them one by one if you have to. As soon as one's ready, bring it out." Bingo. I went and spoke to the chef, explaining what was going on. Rude woman, many chips, one by one. He laughed and we decided to do exactly as she asked. Bring on the malicious compliance. So, despite being very, very busy, as soon as one portion of chips was ready, I took it out. 1 portion, only 1. She was not pleased. "What the hell is this? I said 35 portions, not 1. "As I explained to you inside, madam, 35 portions is simply far too many for our fryers to handle, and there is a substantial number of orders ahead of you." I had to try very hard to hide my shit-eating grin at this point. But, what the hell do you expect me to do with this?" "Perhaps you could have 1 chip each per portion." And I swiftly turned and walked away. Following this, every 10 to 15 minutes I would take out 1 more and only 1 more portion of chips to the group. By about portion 12, they had been there several hours and we were fed up. They tried to complain to the manager, but she was so rude and disrespectful to myself, my manager, and other staff members, that he dismissed her, stating that I had explained clearly to her that we were very busy, and she herself had told me to bring them out 1 portion at a time if need be. They left angry, and we had 23 portions of chips paid for that the staff got to enjoy later on. Now, you might be feeling bad for the group. Well, don't. I didn't mention it earlier because it simply wasn't relevant to the malicious complaints, but they were all pretty rude and finger-snappy. For anyone worried about these starving kids, they got the first bowl of chips, covered most of the table in ketchup, smashed 3 or 4 chips into the table, and left 1/3 of the chips. I don't think they were as close to death as Alpha Karen tried to preach. 3. Okay, story time. I work in a customer service-based role, though my job does entail other tasks, not customer-facing. Customers have accounts with my company, and I am able to access and view many account details. We have a customer who always demands to speak with my boss. She doesn't like talking to myself or the other lowly peons who can't possibly know anything to assist her. I have had past occurrences with this customer to already have her on my list of shits. Though granted, she isn't the highest person, or even in the top 3. My office opens at 9 a.m., and I have yet to be proven wrong that whenever the phone rings right at the opening, it will not be a good, fun, pleasant conversation. The clock strikes 9:04 a.m. and the phone rings. I take a deep breath and prepare myself for the myriad of potential issues I'm about to hear. A shrill voice one I recognize immediately is on the other end. But I still give my typical cheery greeting. "I need to speak to Floopy McFlooperson right now. It's very important. It's about my account." "Oh, Mr. McFlipperson isn't in today. They will be back tomorrow. Is there anything I can help you with?
No, only they can help me. It's about my account. I have to speak with them. It's very urgent. It's about my account.
Well, they are out of the office today, but I can let them know you called, and they can call you back when they're back in tomorrow.
That is unacceptable. I have to talk to them today. I know you have contact information and you can get in touch with them. You need to contact them and have them get in touch with me today.
Now, I need to pause because that part, the part you just read, is what really pissed me off. Never mind the extremely rude and disrespectful tone I was hearing. I deal with that. Anyone does when you're in customer service, but how dare you say it is unacceptable for someone to be out of the office because you need to talk to them? You have no idea why they took a day off. It's none of your business. But you still have no idea if someone died, if they're violently ill, if they're taking a much-needed and well-deserved vacation. And you want me to disrupt any one of those possible scenarios because you need to talk to them.
About your account?
Nah, hon, I don't think so.
Okay, back to the story.
My wheels already turning about how to comply. Well, I can reach out, but again, they are not here today, and I cannot promise they will get in touch today. May I have your name and account number? Shrill voice states their name, which I already knew, and instead of their account number, which I also knew but wanted to confirm, she provides her home number, because obviously I'm going to immediately do as she demanded. I pointedly ask again for the account number and she provides it. She again states that she must talk to my boss and they need to call her today and says goodbye and then hangs up on me. I have a few pet peeves, some minor and some not. She hit almost all of them during that conversation. So I did as she asked and contacted my boss. I texted them about a different matter altogether and had a lovely little text conversation, never mentioning Shrill Voice and her demands. I did send my boss an email letting them know that Shrill Voice had called and her demands, but it was about an hour or two after the initial call from her. I did not mark the email as anything special, and my boss has been out of the office for 3 days, so it will be lost in the sea of emails my boss will come back to. When they get back to the email, they can reach out to her. Also, fun little speculation on my part. I am almost positive I know what this customer was calling about because, again, I can see her account information, and I could have helped her answer her questions right then. Update. I was finally able to contact my boss after they came back, and I had a couple of days off. My boss was able to speak with Shrill Voice, and I found out what her issue was she wanted to talk about. I don't really know how to describe or explain it without giving away some of the ambiguity I was trying to maintain. But please know, it was a super easy topic that anyone could have answered. I literally could have answered her question in 0.2 seconds. Maybe a full second, as I would have had to double-check one minor thing in my system. Also, we are now having other issues with this customer, and it's fun to grab the popcorn and watch unfold. But it doesn't involve malicious compliance. Yet. 4. This is something I remembered about my previous job, and I want to share it. I used to work as a legal assistant in a big electric energy company. They're owners of a lot of wind energy plants here in my country, and to say that they're a strong competitor in this market is an understatement at best. We initially used Microsoft SharePoint as a server for all our functional systems and to save all of our documents, but the CEO decided to change it to the box system. The difference between them was so huge that it was shocking. I was usually in charge of saving all our documents and data in the system, so when the change was announced, I expected orders coming from the legal counselor, the final boss of my department obviously, to give me that direct order. During a team call via Teams, she started to talk about Box and how we must organize our stuff. Since a big part of them were the company's contracts, we needed everything in check. As ridiculous as this sounds, the legal department wasn't liked by at least 5 other departments. And truth be told, our document server was a mess. Each person had their own way to save stuff and nothing made sense. Even the legal counselor said it herself. Our server looked like some kid's room when they have a lot of fun and don't tidy up on the next second. Of course, this was extremely bad. As she mentioned the organization of the system, I immediately proposed to be the one to create a routine for us to save stuff, such as the archive naming, folder distribution, etc. The paralegal, she was great, also offered to help me, since the workload was immense. We practically would start from scratch and do our best without a basis. My direct boss, one of the legal analysts, immediately interrupted us and said she was going to do it. I told her she wouldn't have enough time since she's mostly busy analyzing contracts and other incidents. She said for me to not worry because I had a truckload of things to do, and that I wouldn't do a great job anyway. Really? Fine, I won't do it then. Fast forward to a month, we were entering the archive transferring phase of the project. Every single department in the company must have their server organized, because they would do a direct transfer without any sort of checking. And guess what? Our server was still a freaking mess, and to top it all off, the VP came towards the legal counselor and ordered her to have everything organized in 48 hours. Yes, 48 hours to organize a completely complicated and messy server. In an emergency call, she questioned my boss why nothing has been done regarding the server. My boss, trying to keep her own slate clean, threw me under the bus, saying that she shifted the responsibility to me. Luckily, the paralegal backed me up and saved me. She reminded us of the call where my boss strictly told me to not do anything, since I wouldn't do a good job. Despite the hassle, the counselor told me to stop everything I was previously doing and just organize the system, and so I did. I cleaned up the server in the allotted time, had to reorganize everything on my own, didn't eat, sleep, just to make sure everything was in check. When the day came, the VP checked on us again and saw what I did. She said for the counselor to not let things go out this way again, and that I had done a miracle and a half for my department. Boy, what a day. 5. Mom had borrowed some money for Christmas. The first payment was due January 5th. They started calling on January 2nd, and called every 2 hours from about 10 a.m. until they closed for the night at 5 p.m. Dad got paid on January 6th, and Mom kept telling them she would be in on January 6th, first thing that morning, but they kept calling. On January 5th, Mom kept my younger siblings and I out of school and went to the bank. She had enough money in their bank account to make the payment. Mom got the money out of the bank, all in pennies, $55. They were all in wrappers. My siblings and I unwrapped all those pennies and put them into brown paper lunch bags. The morning of the 6th, she took the pennies to the loan office. She loosened the bottom bags, and when she put the bags onto the counter, the bags split open, pennies flying everywhere. Mom told the lady, "I do not appreciate you calling every 2 hours. The next payment is due February 7th. My husband gets paid on February 7th. If you don't want that to happen again, do not call to remind me. I know I owe money, and I won't cheat you." She walked out. When she paid the final payment, when she walked out, she wet her finger and drew a huge X on the window in the door. One of the workers came out and asked why she did that. "I know you can wash that away. That was to let you know that you received the last business you will ever get from me." Mom pointed to the door and said that you can wash that away, but every time you look at that window, you'll see that X. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, number 74. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. You know, I must say the recording of story number 2 really made me want a bag of chips. It's been quite a while since I was at a chip shop, though. Missing fish suppers. See, there's certain foods I can make I've learned to make myself since COVID started. And I actually made a chow mein last night again. It's the 3rd time I've done it, and I've kind of gotten them down at this point. I got the ratio of the dark to light soy sauce, basically mostly dark soy sauce, a little bit of light, just a little bit for the saltiness, and that's great. I've tried other things as well that I wouldn't usually do, but fish and chips, I don't think that's something you could really do quite the same at home. I'd either have to buy or clean out my deep fat fryer. I can't remember if I chucked the one I had. It was working, but when I got my air fryer, that was basically a replacement for that, because almost everything I did in the deep fat fryer, I could do in an air fryer with a lot less grease, and quite frankly, they taste as good, if not nicer in some cases. And while frozen chips are really nice, I'm not sure how actual properly like chippy chips would do. And I don't think you could do fish with batter in an air fryer, can you? I don't think it would come out the same. Anyway, I'm making myself hungry thinking about food. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, I really want a fish supper. Anyway, okay, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.